Right, all right, then here's my good point. Right, mine's actually one which I'm very carefully going to phrase because obviously we have talked to this topic to death, but I'm going to frame it very particularly. It's not just about the team, but you might know this, Maui. It's partly because of the betting. Like, if you notice, betting's cued me in way more on like which dark horses I like compared to before, just which players I like. Like the joke is in the past, I would pick Vitality's dark horse because I like him. I'd like him to win. Now I actually do pick this on who I think like can really win the game. And one of the ones you notice I love as an underdog is fucking Big. I'll never bet on them as a favourite in a million years. They actually do beat someone good and get to like a quarterfinal. I'll be betting all day against the other team. But if they're like an underdog, and especially this is the scenario where you bet on Big, and it's not just betting where Big will perform. It's when you actually look at the two rosters and you look at the two teams like on the HLTV page, and you're like, no, there's no way they should have a chance in this one. Buckle up because the other team's thinking that, and they're in for a bad 3-match series right now. Like, mate, this team. The reason, this is where I'm going to frame it. It's not just that Big did well. I've specifically put it like this. It's that we have a team like Big to test the top teams, crucially the top teams, because what I love about teams like Big is this. Notice after the game, no one can come out if they're on a team like a Vitality, something like top, they can't come out then and just go, well, you know, they all just like hit every shot and fragged out, and you know, they have that German Zemu was killing. They don't. There's no excuses when Big beats you. When Big beats you, like old school teams, like the old LXCBN, so they just played real Counter-Strike with worse players and beat you with what makes Counter-Strike brilliant, which is it isn't just about aiming. It is about other elements. And so every time you lose to them, it shows you like you better get some shit together. Like that's why I give an example like that as well. If you're like a Vitality and you lose to Big, they just fundamentally outplayed you in the game and probably out-researched you. Like you can't just be like, come on, Zemu, get it together. Like, so what I love is you do need teams like that. You need like upset teams that aren't just like, well, this one guy carried. You need it to be where it's like, we better go back to the lab, mix. If they can beat us, what the fuck's FaZe going to do to us next week, you know?
I mean, I've been such a big proponent for a while now, based off of that one take I made with what was it, when Richard came on the show, I think it was, and I just said that I thought they could touch top 5 if things went well. That obviously is blown out of proportion. Like, I'm now the biggest Big fan on the planet. I do think that it's really pleasing to watch them, though, because of the elements that you described, which is that they just put together rounds in a way that's just so structured. It's like every single corner they turn has a reason that they're going for it. They're flashing into it. They're double peeking into it. They have a person covering another angle so Surson can actually go for a pick, even if Surson misses the shot, even if the guy doesn't hold for Surson and they all die and it all falls apart. At least there was an idea behind it, and that's why I really like them and root for them, because you can see it in some of their matches that when they played against NIP, for example, they found themselves in so many advantages earlier on in these spring groups, and then they just lost 2v4s. I think they lost 2-2v4s on the same Mirage map because they lost to like Hampus with a MAC-10 getting a 3K, and it's like, you guys need to just shoot back a little bit better. Like, that's pretty unacceptable for Tier 1 CS, but I also think that to find themselves in as many advantage positions as they did speaks more about what this team is really about. And so for me with Big, I think that what is really fun is that when they do upset, it is off of the fact that they put themselves in favorable positions, they punish mistakes from opponents, and it's like they're basically putting those ego-checking teams, which are like FaZe, in their place for making plays that are just fundamentally bad CS. And so it's almost like you can imagine that as soon as you lose to Big, you would probably imagine that team probably just shapes up immediately, because nobody thinks that they should be losing to this team. For the future of this team right now, it's hard to get too excited about them, but I want to just really keep my eye on the development of Crimbo, because he's a guy that I think just right now has a lot to iron out. Sometimes he tries to do too much in the round, but when he's like in the zone, in the flow state of what's going on around the map, he's one of those kind of almost like Bubsky-esque players that can, like, in the system that's now been created, he now makes this like one little poke, little prod that actually kind of upset the balance of the round, and then he's winning like a 1v2 clutch for some reason. So he's really exciting to me. I just think maybe, like, actually weirdly, mechanically speaking, he might not be the strongest prospect out there, but in terms of like brain power, I think he's really high up.
Yeah, that's pretty much Crimbo right there. You described him perfectly. He's not the most mechanically gifted, but he does have a better read than a player his age really should have. Especially, he doesn't have extensive like tier 2 experience. He didn't, he's not old enough to have played the old LANs that we used to have back when the tier 2 scene was more important, I think. He's now just a player who intuits far better than he should. But what I love about Big when they upset is because they do, at the end of the day, have to hit the shots, right? You play all the fundamentals right. That's what they do. They get themselves in the advantageous situations, but then they have to close it out. And that's when I usually find like a player like Keto just starts banging heads. And I'm sat there like, wasn't he trash? Like, wasn't that the
Oh,
entire narrative?
he was the most
for
flamed
longest
player
time?
about 6 months or 8 months ago, wasn't he? Yeah, of course.
And I think, Maui, you actually pointed out quite perfectly once that he was playing with the academy team at the time, and there was, what's his name?
Who was
Tizian.
instead? Yeah, there you go. Tizian was the player.
Tizian.
Yes.
And you just pointed out, Keto's got way better mechanics. Why not just put him in these Tizian spots, which are all super basic? Just hit a headshot. That's all you have to do, and it'll work so much better. Now they've come back to this. They finally got, their dream lineup, as they put it. The 5 they wanted. Pretty much the 5 best Germans you can assemble. I've looked throughout their entire scene. There ain't a whole lot else coming through. And yeah, when they frag out, when they hit their shots, guys like Keto are amazingly fun to watch. So it's not just satisfying in terms of, yes, they play everything perfectly, but when they hit the shots and they've got players like Tabs and Keto popping off, all of a sudden they're also entertaining in a very visceral way. So that's why I think Big are becoming fan favorites, not just of like the occasional analyst who gets really nerdy about all the different util sets they use, but just the combination is getting perfect. The mix is just right. I think they are going to be a fan favorite team real soon, even if they, as we established, never really crack the elite teams and stay consistently up there. They are just going to be a lot of fun to watch.
If you want to enjoy a big game and see what I'm talking about, here's how you do it. The mistake is don't go and get like a Tabs and POV and be like, I'm going to watch all the cross. You're not going to say, what you do is this, get a game where they played a top team, a team that should be better than them, quite close, and watch from the top team's POV when the top team's on CT side, and pick all the best riflers on the top team. And what you'll find is this, your brain tells you from a million games, like, oh, this is awesome. Like, this guy's got really good skill on this like CT player. Like, he's going to get this first kill. And they're like, oh, he's flashed. They got him. Oh, it's like playing like a bad fucking matchmaking game where you don't have a proper team and you feel like you're playing against a stack. It's like, oh, they bloody flashed him off again, or oh, they double peaked him. Oh, it feels unfair until you remember this is totally valid. This is actually what Counter-Strike is, guys. It's not FPL, like this is actually how you win Counter-Strike fundamentally. So yeah, just props to them. And as you say, it's got to be the coaching staff and Tabs, and hasn't it? Like, how many fucking, they've had a million different players. They're the only factor that remains at this point. So mad props, yeah. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.